Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Perfect Detours. We had a perfect detour today, as in myself and my co host Bonnie, who I'll introduce in a second. We went to the studio getting ready for the show, and there was no power. So we quickly improved and figured out what can we do to make sure we get the show on the air. And Bonnie said, "Well, let's use this platform which we're on, which is StreamYard." So here we are. So it's our perfect detour today. Anyway, my name is Bob Kiser. My preferred pronouns are he, him, and each week we explore those moments in people's lives that are those curves, those maybe quote unquote wrong turns, those choices that we make that at maybe in the moment we say, "Ugh, I can't believe I did that." But upon further view, further looking at them, we figured out that they're exact moments that we needed to get us to where we were going. So that's what we explore each week in this show. And for the month of January, I've had a special co-host, Miss Bonnie Violet, and here she is. So hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Bob. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Good morning.
It's going.
I know we just have to roll with the punches.
Yep, bring it on. That's what the show's about,
Not
right?
not that we're punching anyone, no violence here.
No punching today. Bonnie and I jumped in a lift with my partner Brian, and we ran to my house. So here we are. She's in one room, I'm in another. So, yep, very
Right.
fancy here.
Making it
Um,
work. And we do have a special guest today.
we do have a special guest. Wait 1 second before we bring him on, though. I want to know, how are you doing, Bonnie?
How am I doing? I'm doing well. I am spending my last like 24 hours or so with like in Chicago. I leave in the morning to San Francisco, which I'm kind of excited about to get to San Francisco because I haven't been there in a couple months. And it's a little warmer.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're gonna miss you so much. We've had the most amazing January with Bonnie in Chicago.
Mm.
So,
I'm gonna
um,
miss you as well. It's been really fantastic. I'll be sure to visit often.
yes, and we'll still be doing these kind of things. So we'll
Yeah,
still see each other.
definitely.
But
We can do this from everywhere. We don't have to be in the same apartment in different rooms,
it's probably better if we're not actually for this.
right? At
Yeah,
least we know we'll both show up.
right. So I want to ask you a question. So, in the last month, what has been your perfect detour? What has been that moment that you weren't expecting that has led to maybe some discoveries about yourself or just
Oh
really cool
wow.
moments?
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of my life right now is just a continuation of hopefully a perfect detour.
Right.
Like as I've spoken about before, which is kind of like my nomadic life. I think I took a detour that I hope is leading to something better. And I like everything you get somewhere and it's not quite what you think it is, and you learn something different. I've been really challenged by some things I was not expecting
Yeah.
on this journey.
Wait, there's someone right behind you.
That
This really
Yeah, you
handsome
know that,
guy who's trying to stay out of the camera.
right?
I told him today I was going to bring him on the air. He's like, "I don't want to be on the air." I said,
Oh,
"So
well, he's here now.
I know where he
Might
just
as well get
where
on
did
air.
he get you? He went behind you, and then
I know,
anyway.
right? He's
Hi,
he's he's
Daphne. I
being
see
shy.
Daphne's on. Hi, Daphne.
Hi, Daphne. Glad you could join us. You found the link.
Yay.
How about you, Bob? What's been going on with you?
Um. So I think my detour for this month has been, I think it's in my professional work, especially at the university and some of the conflict resolution classes that I teach. In that, I think there's a call right now. I think for people who are just in turmoil and trying to figure out how to navigate these COVID waters. Like when it first started, I think we all were like, yes, we can do this. And it's been going on. And all these changes is in protocols and stuff. And I think people are getting more cranky. So recently I've been called upon to kind of help people walk through that, navigate through that. And I think that as I look at it, people usually are in fear because they're afraid of losing something or afraid of not getting something. I think all of us are kind of afraid of, or let me say, I'm afraid of losing the little freedom I feel like I have navigating through the world right now with COVID. So I think that any little thing that comes up or people not following what I think they should be doing, I start getting angry. So I think that's been the interesting thing this month for me is watching conflict resolution in relationship to COVID. So
Right, right. I relate to a lot of that. Daphne said it took her a minute, but she figured it out.
all it counts. No one's late. So good.
No one is late, including our guest. Should we bring our
Yes,
guest on now?
I think we should. So who is our guest?
All right, so I got a little bit of a bio, so I'm going to do my best to read it out loud here. I do it's like whenever I go to read something when I'm on live, it's like I don't know how to read all of a sudden, so I'll do my best.
Except for today, you're going to be awesome today. So
Amazing, right? Octavio Campos has challenged the conversations of theater, dance, opera, circus, cabaret, psychology, mindfulness, and recovery through 40 years of fearless performance, creating interdisciplinary shows and educational experiences where he has strapped time bombs to audience members. Chess Luna del Pinguino, sorry, I got messaged. um, Immersed them in a world where young men deliberately contract HIV, the bug chasers, and inspired love and acceptance. Please don't hate me. And now, in his youngest creation, an immersive car wash show, an ode to joy in the time of COVID, entitled Karaboom. Karaboom. There we go. I should have read through this first. Born in Miami to Cuban parents, Campos received his BFA at the State University of New York at Purchase, the Martha Graham School, and the Lincoln Center Directors Lab. He continued his studies at the Folkwang Schule of Pina Bosch in Germany, where he was a soloist, director, and producer in German State Opera House System for 12 years. He then returned to the US to lead his own dance company in Miami called, oh my gosh, Camposition, and collaborated with Circus du Soleil, uh, Baryshnikov Art Centers, the theater Offensive, and Body Talk AO. He is now a counselor for people in recovery, teaching psychodrama, spirituality, and mindfulness at Above and Beyond Family Recovery Center in Chicago. And his link will be in the description.
I
Whew.
love it. I'm glad you got to introduce him, not me. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the amazing, the original, the one and only Octavio Campos.
Hello.
Octavio.
I know there's a lot of international jargon in there because I'm an international girl. I've been all over, and
No, it was so great.
yeah, no, the
I hope
the
I did you
school,
justice.
the Pina Bausch school that you're talking about. That's the Folkwang school. It's the school of German expressionism. So I'm a Cuban that landed through Germany, and I kind of transformed the German expressionism to post-tropical expressionism. So I am considered a post-tropical expressionist, and yeah, that's kind of how I move through life. But yeah, thank you for the introduction, and I'm like so happy to be here. I love Bobby Kaiser, and I just met Bonnie Violet, and looking forward to getting to know her more through this conversation and through some other witchy things that we're conjuring up for the future.
Right.
Wait. Okay, wait. I just have to check on something. You strapped a time bomb to someone? Is that what I heard?
Yeah. I did a solo right around 9/11 that was kind of looking at the whole jihad and the training of the suicide bombers. So I thought, why don't I just become a suicide dancer? So I thought I'll just break into performances and jump on the stage while like a ballet is going on or a theater play, and let me just like hijack the audience. And that kind of became a little bit too violent. So I transformed it into a one-man show that I called Luna del Binguino, which translates to Penguin Moon, where I was a penguin that had everybody come into my interdisciplinary refrigerator and sat down with me while I sang some opera songs, and slowly but surely my belly came off and I had a bomb, and I basically hijacked the audience as a suicide bomber. And so that was one of my performances. I've always kind of taken that idea of theater, real life, socio-political, thematic, and kind of framed it inside of a artistic context that then becomes kind of like almost like theater of cruelty, where I bring reality to the forefront. Is this really real or not? And this was a bomb that I made out of a backpack with fake dynamite, very Looney Tunes. Like my the detonator was a huge rat trap that I held, and I would strap it onto an audience member at the end, and I would hold it and I would ask the audience, what should I do? Should I do it or not? And there was always some idiot that would say yes. And and the tension that I built up in that time, people thought, even though this was the fakest looking thing, I was terrified. And it was because at that time, we were all terrified. Like that 9/11, those twin towers came down. I mean, we were like, all those buildings that were being crashed into. It was heavy. It was a heavy time, and so I felt like I needed to say something about this right when I returned from Europe, and it was my break-in piece to the United States. I was on the National Performance Network, and I toured it all over the U.S. for like 3 years. Performance-based,
So how,
New York, and yeah.
so when you do that, so oh, wow, we were going to talk about some other stuff, but this is interesting to me. This perfect detour. And first of all, thank you so much for your flexibility today, Octavio. We were at the studio and then we're changing here, so thank you. With this, how did your show deal with the kind of biases against the Middle Eastern culture? I mean, Middle Eastern, like there was just so much messaging going on that time, biases, and
well, I mean, and also the misogyny behind it, and I mean, and also the gender confusion, and I mean, I played with a lot of different things. I was this kind of genderless penguin that had payas. I gave myself the little ringlets because I thought they were cute, but they were also that definition of that spirituality, that rite of passage of the male, and then that whole connection, a boundary between like the religions and the tension, so much. There was so much tension there that it was screaming at me to like address it. And yes, when I found out the big motivation for those suicide bombers was, when you do this, there's going to be 108 virgins in paradise waiting for you to give you everything you ever needed. And I thought, okay, this is really, I mean, so I actually enlisted all the women from the production. It was an immersive show, meaning everyone was sitting inside of the space all randomly in chairs all over. And I solicited as many women as I could. I put veils on them and I turned them into my virgins, and they were dancing. And it was controversial. I mean, people were like, you're really playing with so much but that was like, maybe, when was that? 9/11 was 2002. I think today we're way more conscious of how we do those things. And there was less social media really to shine the light on that. But yeah, I dealt with a little bit of backlash. Yeah, the Islamic community was like, you can't talk about the jihad that way. And but that was part of my role in my community, was to be a creative instigator. That's kind of what a lot of people call me. And still to this day, I like to instigate things and hold space for them, be a container that people can then get all rustled up about. And then I can simply say, this is just fantasy. This is just theater. This is just a moment. This is just a conversation.
That's the power of theater, and that's the power of, it allows us to have these kind of more difficult conversations. But you brought up the idea of community, and today's topic that Bonnie was like, let's do this topic. And as I've been thinking about the topic, I've had lots of thoughts, and I'll share them here. But the topic for today is belonging, and I think that community is part of that belonging. So I'm going to turn over to Bonnie real quick. And Bonnie, so what are your thoughts about this whole belonging thing that you want to chat about today?
Well, I mean, I think for me, it's always like, what should we talk about? But I personally have been kind of like trying to figure out like where my place is in this world. And like, I've been transitioning in body and identity, as well as like location, and just how do I feel like I belong, or where do I belong, or who do I hang out with, those sorts of things. And how like on, when you have any sort of device, when you say something out loud, then you start getting all these YouTube messages and Facebook ads on belonging. And I heard Brene Brown talking about how one of the things that she loved and hated that Maya Angelou spoke about was belonging, and this idea that like something about belonging everywhere is like belonging nowhere. Like really our goal isn't to belong to anyone else or anything, but really just to belong to ourselves
Mm.
and kind of that internal belonging. At least that was my understanding. I'm sure either of you could probably speak to that a little maybe differently, maybe than I just said.
Well, I think there's you bring up a really good point. Is so belonging to what? And there is belonging to whose. There's belongings to communities. There's belongings even to organizations. There's and I think that if I understand kind of what Brene Brown was saying was that I think it's the definition of oneself in relationship to who they quote unquote belong to. So I think that is interesting in that if I don't have a good core feeling of who myself is, that I will become a chameleon or adapt to those different things that I quote unquote belong to, and I think then it can affect us. So if I go in as a strong core of who I am, then it's interesting what I bring to the table versus if I don't have a core self, what I'm taking. But
Right. Because if we change too much, it might lead to betrayal to the point where we betray ourselves and who we are. And so I think that's something to kind of be mindful as we're in a relationship with one another. How do I stay who I am? Or you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, who am I? I think that's the question we're always asking is who am I? So
Question for eternity. Who am I? If we stop asking ourselves that question, then we really don't belong, even to ourselves. I think that's when you lose that curiosity about who you are, then you stop wanting to belong. And then when you stop wanting to belong, there's no purpose and meaning. And if there's no purpose and meaning, you don't want to wake up. And if you don't want to wake up, then you're going to die. And that's ultimately inevitable. But we are not necessarily planning that, right? We're not planning that today.
and I think that a lot of religions, I am. That is the simple statement, I am. And I think that to me, I've shared before on the show that the simple statements made by people who've been my mentors or whatever, I get irritated with. I think there should be more to something. Like at one point I was going through turmoil, and a therapist said, "You're okay." I was like, "But you don't understand all this stuff's going on." And the minute I could accept that I am okay is when I found peace and serenity. I think that when I'm trying to figure out who am I compared to I am, I find, oh, I am. So I don't need to figure this out. I just am, and I can exist, as me, whatever me is. Is it the soul? Is it and I think we all put on masks and roles and things like that. That's why as artists, we have jobs in theater, that people have roles, and we can relate to that. I don't know.
And I think that's kind of why I love so much the German culture. I mean, that's what I learned when I was in Germany. People think of the Germans as being so cold, and we still have that residue of that memory of the horrors that country, brought to the world. But that question, that expression is the German expression philosophy of not how we do things, but why we're doing them. And that idea of the why, always asking, why am I doing this? Why am I present? Why am I here? It's a lovely, lovely way to move through life.
Right. A lot of feedback with you, Octavio. It just started.
Is there feedback?
There's something where an echo.
Let me turn off the mic and see what happens.
Is that
better?
Oh. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's fine. No.
Cool.
And there's still not the echo between you and I because we're in different rooms.
Yeah.
No, great.
So what are the groups that you belong to?
Ooh.
To me?
To both of you.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Because I feel like I quickly adapt. I feel like I can quickly feel like I'm belonging to any group. And I think it's something that that echo's making me crazy. Is it me? The echo. Is it me echoing? I think the group of echo I belong to. There is not. That's not okay. I'm gonna do my best. Why don't you turn your microphone off, Bobby? I think it's you. Is it me? Is it me? Am I still echoing? Am I echoing? Yes?
Yeah, we both had our mics off.
And I'm still echoing. I'm sorry. Bueno, you talk, and I was gonna try to fix it here. Let me see what happens.
That's great. We're gonna leave you for now.
Yeah, and you can just check the mic down in the bottom, see the cam mic, click on that, and just see if your mic came unclicked. Sometimes that just happens.
Or headphones. So Bonnie, what are your oh, I still hear it.
You still hear? Is it me then? Is it me that's echoing?
Oh, Octavio's unmuted now. All right. You take the mic real quick. Nope. Octavio, I'm gonna mute you for a while until you figure it out. There. Okay. I'm gonna need some headphones. Bonnie, you're on.
I'm on because everybody's having mic and sound problems. Okay. Thanks for rolling with us, folks who are listening to us. Feel free to chime in at any point in time and let us know who you belong to, or if you have any questions for us around what we are speaking about. Don't mind Bob in the background there. Let's try Octavio here real quick. You can unmute you. There you go.
Is it better now? Hi.
I
can hear.
Yeah, I don't know that I was hearing it in the same way that you all were hearing it. So we might need for Bob to come on to know that.
Hello.
Do you hear an echo?
Not anymore. I feel like I hear it with you. I feel like I belong to you. I don't know why I'm thinking of the Michael Jackson song. You belong to me. What is that? I belong to you.
Oh yeah. What is that song? I know which one you're. It's like I can hear it, but I can't put words to it.
Well, I always think of belonging or not belonging when, like, I wasn't invited to the party. That's when I felt always the most like I wasn't invited to that party. I wasn't invited to that meeting, or I wasn't invited to that. And I always had to ask myself why. And yeah.
I love it. Bobby now has like hair to flip.
Does it work?
Seriously.
But if you move, we can hear it.
In the background, it's horrible. It's all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop.
All right, talking. Are we good? How about you, Bobby? To whom
what was
do you
the question?
Belonging. Who do you belong to?
So I think I belong to. This is driving me crazy. The Kiser family unit. I belong to, I think, the recovery community. I belong to the LGBTQIA+ community. I belong to the community at UIC. I belong to the community of United States. I belong to the community of the world. There's just so many different communities that I do belong to, and I think that when I exclude myself from communities is when it's easy for me to then become judgmental, biased. I can start acting as a bad human being, I think so. And I guess the community that I'm most belong to is the community of the universe, because I think we're all connected in one community. So, and as we're talking about this, I've never really thought about this, is that depending on the community that I am defining myself with right now, it changes how I view everything. So that's interesting. So if I believe that I'm part of the LGBTQIA+ community, then how I'm looking at my my quote unquote straight friends or whatever, it's interesting. I'm seeing a difference. And even as we're talking about community and belonging, if we belong to one group, does that mean we're excluded from another group? So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, well, I felt one of the things that when you were speaking that I was thinking of too is like, because yeah, you can list like all these things I belong to, but what does belonging to them mean? And then I'm like, well, what things don't I belong to? You know, like thinking about when do you stop belonging to something or with something? And I feel like that's kind of where I've been at the last little while, is really figuring out like how, like, where, yeah, like, because it's like, like for instance my relationship with my father has like went to really crap all of a sudden, and like and that's been something I've really been striving for a long time, and so it's like, do I belong anymore, do I belong to him anymore, like that becomes a question. Or how does that work? Or I have chosen family I've recently been really challenged by being in relationship with, and I don't know, it just makes you want to, like, I don't know, let go, I guess.
Well, it's interesting,
And
the idea of belonging versus connected to.
yeah, I mean, I think it's probably comes down to like the depth of the connection, right? I mean, I think there's all kinds of connections and connectivity. So I think belonging might be a form of connection, but not necessarily all connection is belonging.
That's interesting. If you're just tuning in, hi everybody. We are doing Perfect Detours, which is usually on the radio station here in Chicago at WGHC 98.3 FM Chicago, but the station had some issues today, so we quickly improvised and came to StreamYard and got everyone together to have this conversation. And the conversation's on belonging and the idea of what does belonging mean? What do we do to belong? What do we do not to belong? I think is another question. And we have our guest on here, Octavio, who is a performance artist, just does everything. So I guess that's the best way to put it, does everything. Teacher, mentor, performer, and has a really cool show coming up. It's starting very shortly, so we're gonna talk about that in a second. But Octavio, I have a question for you. Oh, and one last thing is, if you want to join the conversation, we have the chats going. So just chat your message, and we would love to include you here in this conversation. So Octavio, talk to me about belonging in the realm of theater and performance, and how does it affect what you do?
So funny, because I had a hard time on figuring out what you were asking, and then when you started defining the networks or the worlds that you belong to, I was like, oh yeah, I belong to a lot of worlds in that world of theater and performance, and the specific type of theater that I'm really an expert at, which is new theater, immersive theater, devised theater. Uh, I've done a lot of classic written plays, but I was mostly part of creation teams where we start with an idea and we build and make from nothing. And that world is very fringe. It's very off Broadway. It's very warehouse and Bushwick, and hidden in the yards. And that was always for me a very interesting challenge, to find that tribe of people to connect with, because they're out there, but they're really hard to get to, and it takes a lot of work to get there. But once I'm there with the like-minded thinkers that are into non-linear narrative, more aesthetic, working with aesthetic force, with looking at issues, political, social, and bringing them to the table in a different way, I feel so calm, even though sometimes the road to get there would be difficult. Like when I was living in Europe, I was really, I want to use the word addicted to finding the most cutting edge experimental production. And I recently, I literally, 3-4 years ago, there was a revival of a project called Them, which was a piece created during the AIDS crisis in the 80s, late 80s, in PS 122, Performance Space 122 in the East Village, and they brought it back to life. And I had heard about it where three men that are positive are telling their story, and as they're doing this, they're passing around the carcass of a dead goat that is cut open, and they're wearing it, and they're passing, and they're using it as a partner. And then at the end, they bury this. And I was like, I need to see that. I need to be with death that way. And yeah, there's an obsession in my mind. Like, I don't know, that I feel very, very connected when I'm in that space, and I make the effort to belong to that space, and to support that kind of thinking and expression for me is something that keeps me motivated, because even though I'm not so active in that community anymore, I mean, the pandemic, that was also part of belonging to things in a different way through digital media, and had to separate from that. And performance is so much about the live experience. I've been missing that a lot, and so yeah, I'm slowly coming back to that world and re-entering it with a different mindfulness than I did before. It wasn't so wild. It's a lot more conscious, and I'm way more appreciative of it because it's happening much less, and it's much more fragile, and it's much more specific than it ever was. So I am embracing those moments, and also those young voices that are still having those feelings, still wanting to take those risks, and finding a way now that I'm older to support those systems, or those tribes, or those cliques, or those subsets of life, which also include the LGBTQ community, the queer community. I mean, I'm a huge father of the voguing balls. I'm the white guy that goes to like ta ta ta, But I can't slam myself on the floor. I can't do any of that. But I will go to Sunday service in New York at Johnny's from 4 to 6 to watch the House of Ninja kids practice and cheer them on. You know what I mean? Like, I still believe in that kind of support and the effort that it takes to go to belong. I mean, it's not just, okay, there's the VIPs, they're this world of social media, the influencer groups. Like, I don't know how that works, but that's kind of an instant way of belonging. Following a YouTube star, following an Insta star. I still don't understand that, and I know that's the way of the future, and I'm having a hard time with that. I'm not gonna lie. I need the live. Like, I still, even though I don't drink, I want to go to a gay bar and connect with somebody that way. I don't want to be on this thing to try to find somebody to have maybe a date or an intimate connection. It's I struggle with that, and but it's part of my reality, and I have to adapt, and I have to pivot if I want to be in there. I mean, even now, I've only seen Bonnie Violet for like 3 seconds live yesterday, and now I'm spending way more time with her in the digital space than in real life.
Yeah. That's interesting, the idea of belonging too in this day of social media and multimedia and all this kind of stuff in the virtual world, as you just said, Octavio. That's very interesting. But I think in live theater is interesting because when performers, I think there's a tribe of performers who get the show ready, and you build a family, and there's a family unit and stuff like that, belongingness. But then also each side of the show, that there is a commitment, an agreement made with the audience and the performers and the crew, and even people sitting, the ushers, that we're all going to come together and we're going to produce this event. Some people will watch, some people will perform, and there's that community there, the belongingness. And I also think that, so Bonnie, I know you perform too, and I think that as I was thinking about this, you were talking about the community also that you belong to, and I think that you have been introduced to new communities and becoming more involved. And I think that part of that is also the performance. But what has been your experience with kind of starting to learn about a new community and to integrate, and then and to have that feeling of belongingness?
Yeah, I feel like I've been really challenged by it as you all were chatting. I also looked up to kind of see what makes belonging, and a sense of belonging, according to Cornell, Belonging is the feeling of security and support when there is a sense of acceptance, inclusion, and identity for a member of a certain group. So I feel like that's what kind of like I think it's that element of like I'm willing to claim like an attachment to this group of people or this institution or whatever. And I have really struggled with this much of my life. Like I've really struggled with it's like I get to be a part of a group and then there is something slightly not quite like me or quite, like in alignment with me. And then it's just like, okay, I'm done. Like I've really had a hard time feeling super connected and like I belong to a lot of things. But I think having those moments of feeling included, feeling accepted, feeling affirmed are really, I think, big keys to kind of, begin to help me feel like I belong to, my family or my God or higher power or the divine or even the other people in my life that I care about. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. Can you read that definition one more time? Because I do love definitions.
Yes. So let me just bring it up on my phone here real quick. So belonging is the feeling of security and support when there is a sense of acceptance, inclusion, and identity for a member of a certain group. It also goes further to say like it is when an individual can bring their authentic self, say, to work. When employees feel like they don't belong at work, their performance and their personal lives suffer. And I think you could probably apply that to a number of different scenarios and situations that we're in. That if we don't feel like we are accepted, if we don't, we don't have that sense of belonging, we're probably not going to do well or as well as maybe we could in certain situations.
That is interesting. The idea of being able to bring your authentic self to a group. That just resonated with me very, very much. Interesting. If you're just
Same here. I want to just echo what you said, and I will echo in your room, I'm sure, as well. But the I love you, Octi, Melissa Hernandez, that's online, the message that came up, that's a perfect example of this idea of belonging to a group that I never in a million years, this woman brought me into a community that I would have never in a million years. It's West Garfield Park here in Chicago, primarily homeless, primarily Black, Latinx. And even though I identify with stigma and discrimination on so many levels, even though I have the white bodysuit, I always talk about my white male of privilege bodysuit, I have that on. I still am able to navigate in these communities. And Melissa is one of those warriors that goes into places, harm reductionist. I've learned so much from her. And she's brought me face to face with a community that I never in a million years, and it was during Black Lives Matter, it was during all the Floyd, it was during all that thing, and how it was my responsibility to lean in, to belong to that group. I am now driving down Pulaski and what they call the heroin highway, and I can wave and people are, there's Octi, and I feel like I belong in that neighborhood, even though people are always saying, oh my God, you're going to that neighborhood, you can't go to that neighborhood. I'm like, you know what? It's of course it's bad, but it's not that bad once you lean into it. I mean, it's really hard to be afraid of something that you're close to or something that you're unfamiliar. If you're unfamiliar with something, it's easy to put judgments and put up walls and put up things. But once you lean in, I mean, and I think that's what the whole messaging of Black Lives Matter was for me, was like, it is not the responsibility of the Black and brown and indigenous communities to educate the white people. We need to go there now because it's been a long time that they've been having to lean into us and assimilate to us. We are coexisting. We are all one big tribe. We're all one big melting pot, whatever you want to call it, a fondue pot, whatever that is. And so how do we really start juicing together in a way that's mindful, respectful, without this feeling of appropriation? Like, I'm a member of the Dharma community. One of my communities is right now the Dharma. I'm highly connected to the Dharma through so many levels of my life. And I just recently went to a meeting where they're like, the white Dharma. You guys can't use the Buddha. You guys can't put Buddhas on posters and on mats. You can't have a Buddha on a towel. Like, that would be like putting Jesus on a floor mat right now. And it's like, whoa, they are absolutely right. So how do we navigate belonging, being part of a one? We are all together. We are a big community. We're working together. We're coexisting together, and still be mindful, respectful. It's a lot. It's a lot for anyone. And I respect every human being that shows up to the communities that are unfamiliar and strange. And I applaud everybody's bravery in this time, because it is hard. It is a hard time. And just even identifying Miss Bonnie, Mr. Kiser, that they, them. I mean, I have a community of they, thems that I am constantly refining my transgender etiquette and language. And it's my job, it's my work that I have to do to belong truly and feel balanced and at ease and content and able.
Yeah, I think it's also making the commitment to what I heard, Octavio, is I think when you went into this community is maybe the discomfort of being quote unquote different until you find similarities and the connectedness and then the belongingness. And I think that I'm from Central Illinois, and it's a smaller town, not too small, but kind of small town. And there is a thing of like when you start going outside of where you're from and what and the people and stepping outside those, and also challenging the biases you have, and and challenging that acknowledging those. I think that it is scary, but it's also the work we need to do. And I love what you said. It's my job. It's my job to do the work. It's no one else's job to teach me or to make me comfortable as I'm doing that work. So yeah, great, Octavio. Sorry, Bonnie and I have to kind of mute in between to I think it was us that was causing the feedback. I finally figured out. So we're going back and forth with muting each other. But anyway, I'm going to mute now. So then, Bonnie, you share some of your wisdom.
I'm like, I don't have any wisdom. Not at the moment. It's right. It can be a little challenging. Is the sound better now, though, Bob? I think I might have figured out what was wrong. Is that better?
It sounds better.
Yeah.
It's still a little. I think it's between you and me. I think. Do you have an extra thing on? And it doesn't matter as long as you mute.
I have an extra thing on. What?
No, when I mute you when I talk, I'm better. So I mean, the echo's gone.
Got you.
I didn't mean that. Like when I mute you, I'm better.
Right.
Wait, I have a question real quick. Is my partner still hiding behind the island?
Come on, Brian. Brian, come up. I want to see your beautiful
I hear
face.
him somewhere, but I don't.
He's behind there, but he doesn't want to come on camera.
So.
So.
Oh, he's on the phone.
So I guess I can talk about him, and then he can't answer back. So.
You can come join us.
I know, right?
Wait, Bonnie has to answer the belonging. She was going to say something, and then paching. What were you going to say? I want to hear what you have to say.
I was I going to say something? I mean, I really felt like because I think when you guys were like sharing about like what you belonged to and whom you belong to and all that, I was kind of thinking like that could be like a good practice kind of around like even like a gratitude, like how you do with gratitude, you write a gratitude list, and like maybe with feeling alone or disconnected or like by yourself, it seems like it might be a good tool to just like think about who do I belong to, like writing down like, I don't know, like a list of belonging. Cause yeah, I mean, I never really thought about that before. It probably makes like, it's probably like, duh. But like when you were saying that, I was like, oh, I think that like, that could be really helpful for me. So, cause I can often forget who I am connected to, and so just like anything with gratitude, and when I become ungrateful, then I'm irritable, I'm discontent. When I don't feel like I belong, I become, resistant and closed depressed and all those sorts of things. So I could see how it'd be helpful just to write down like my belonging, where I feel safe, where I feel included, where I, all those sorts of things.
Where I can show up as authentically myself. So that's really cool. Love it. So we're coming near the end of our time. This has been a quick chat, which I feel like we should do 100 more of these. And I agree with Melissa that Octavio, you are just an amazing gift to the world. So Octavio, so tell us a little bit. I want to hear about this project that you're going to be doing next month. I think it opens, right? March.
Oh my God, yes, I'm going. This is a crazy thing. During COVID, a collaborator of mine that I've been working with for many years from Geneva, Switzerland, Natasha Tsakos, we've done lots of projects. She's like, we have to create something for COVID. We have to create something. There was a call to the Artist by Night Foundation, McClatchy, or whatever. And we came up with this COVID-proof show. And we were like, we're going to make a car wash show, meaning people come in with their cars. And the show is called Karaboom, not Karabomb, but it could be Karaboom, but Karaboom, boom, boom. And Karaboom is opening March 30th. Basically, imagine if you went to a car wash, you get your car wash, you pay your money, and we took the mechanics of a car wash. Like imagine when you go to a car wash, you pay your money, you drive through, you go to that place, you meet the guy, he gets the brush, he takes off the ugly parts of your big buildup, and then you go through, you have the soap, you have the colors, you have the blow dryer. We took the construction of a car wash, framed it into 30 minutes, all those sections, and we are creating an ode to joy, meaning basically it's a group of super fools. And I don't want to use the word clown because people have very strange relations to clowns, but I used to be a clown. And but we're deciding to work with buffoonery and foolery, and we've trained a group of 26 performance artists, mostly actors and dancers, as fools, working with the amazing John Gilkey, which is one of the original first clowns of the Cirque du Soleil family, a dear friend and colleague that I adore, and he's been helping kind of create these super fool clowns. So every car that comes to check in will have an assigned clown that will take them to their spot. They will all park. Once all the cars are situated, the car wash begins, and then we just go through the phases. And the first phase is, we call it the soul cleaning, where we clean the cars, and then the love the cars, love yourself, which becomes this kind of soapy foam party, kind of crazy, that will then become the collective meditation moment where all the cars and everything will just come into a kind of meditative, where the shower, the rain showers, the water, we're going to have a fire truck that's going to be able to stream water. We're going to have a tightrope walker walking over kind of the whole arena. And then to the blow dry section, where there's lots of air machines and towels, and the cars will get washed, and then goodbye, go home, 30 minutes, repeat, rinse. Next group of cars come in, the clowns come in. So it's really an entertainment. It's a moment to just kind of, with your family, come in your car. The music will be streamed through the radios of the cars, and it's going to be really special. We're also creating 2 splash zones, meaning where we're going to have kind of a silent disco moment. We're doing it in the center of downtown Miami, and so we have a sound ordinance situation. So there's 2 splash zones at the end of the runway. It's like, imagine a runway, cars, on one side, cars on the other side, big runway, and on each side there's going to be splash zones where they're going to be silent discos, 25 people in each section, and they can participate as well live. They might get a little wet. We're going to do those ponchos that you get when you go to Niagara Falls, so that people can enjoy the foam and the water and not feel like they're going to lose it. And I have great news, because March 30th, on the opening night, it happens to be the opening week of Pride in Miami, because we do it earlier in Miami, because in the summer it's too hot. You cannot do Pride in July. I mean, you can, but you're just like dying. It's too hot. So we do it always earlier. and it happens to be that day. So our opening night is going to be the Pride celebration. So we're going to have some drag queens, and it's going to be after party. It'll be nice. So please come to Miami. It's right at the center of town at the Freedom Tower. March 30th. It's running all through the end of April, and I think we're going to be transporting the show to another neighborhood later, and it's going to run as an attraction because the city is really behind it to have some kind of a space for families and people to go and feel safe, because that's what we're having to do now. We're having to pivot and reinvent how we entertain ourselves, not just at home, because it's fine to be at home. I mean, we have lots of entertainment, lots of access, but it's good to get out there. And there's one section I'm working on right now that's called Beam Me Up, the Beam Me Up section, where we're doing a choreography with the cars, because the cars will participate with the horns, with the lights flashing, the blinkers, the wipers, the water. And so there'll be some immersive, interactive kind of flash mobby type of participation from the audience. And I hope, you never know with these things. It's again a dream, but we've been working since July. I've been flying in every month to Miami. Even in the COVID time, I've been triple masking in the field and making my way over, workshopping with the artists, and now, boom, all speed ahead. Next week is my last immersion for the designers, and then March 8th, we're going into full-on every day, and I'm looking forward to sharing that also via Facebook. I'm sure we'll stream it as well, but it's going to be fun. Karaboom, 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 boom, boom. Karaboom.com. Go there and sign up for the list. It'll be fun.
I cannot wait. I have to get my tickets. I have to go to Miami.
I know,
And when is
Pride
it?
is gonna be. I just found out that the Pride people are gonna be taking the boom zone, so it's gonna be a fun party. It'll be fun.
And then when does it come to Chicago? Hint, hint.
Wouldn't that
hint.
be nice? Actually, you know what? I've identified a really cool parking lot in Milwaukee at the Art Museum. I mean, if you know of a good parking lot here that's open and available, we'll bring it to Chicago. We can always bring it here. Why not? Or
I'll
do
go
it
for
here.
one. Yes,
It's
sounds
doable.
great.
We can do it here. You don't need to bring it. We do it here. You just find a group of super fools ready to play with cars.
Well, I'll do it. Let's do it. I want to be a super fool.
Right.
I want to belong to that group. That group sounds like a fun group to be a part of.
Oh my God, it's so beautiful to see it, because comedy is a very white person's thing. It's very white. That idea of stand up and when you look at the classic, when you look at Commedia dell'arte, when you look at a European clowning, when you look at Polish clowning, when you look at Russian clowning, and you bring all that passion into the comedy and that physicality, and you transfer that to a white comedic, structure. It's a recipe for really fun, delicious idiocracy, and I think it's going to be a fun, silly, light space. I mean, I've added that moment of collective meditation. We actually got permission from the city to be able to turn out the lights in that whole block for that moment. So I'm creating one more moment of what they call the theater of cruelty, where we really believe there's been a blackout. And so that we can then prompt the cars to turn their lights on. And so collective meditation will be in that moment of just the car's lights on. So it'll be real nice. I mean, I'm hoping that I can create a sense of ease inside of all that fun, joy stuff.
It's going to be great. Octavio, it has been such a joy to have you on the show today.
It's been a joy to be here with you. I look forward to getting to know Bonnie more, and I love being with you here in Chicago. I'm gonna miss you, Miss Bonnie, but next time we'll do it. I'm coming to San Francisco. We can hang out over there.
All right, that sounds great. I'm really looking forward. Thanks so much. I'm so glad I got to meet you last night, and then today, like, you just full of such light and joy. It's really lifted my morning. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all. Thank you, Bobby.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Perfect Detours on A Perfect Detour. As if you're just joining the show, we had some station issues today, so we weren't able to do the show at the station. So we improvised and did it here. So thank you, Bonnie, for your StreamYard account and for helping us get this set up. So, and I'm saying goodbye to Octavio for the show, but also saying goodbye to Bonnie for it, because we've been together for the last month. And so very sad. Bonnie leaves Chicago tomorrow, but we'll still be doing shows like this and still connecting. And It's not goodbye. It's just so long for now. So, but Bonnie, if people are in San Francisco, they should definitely look you up or look you up anywhere. So how can people find you?
The best way to find me is just to search for a queer chaplain on any of the socials, and you should be able to find me. Bonnie Violet is starting to be searchable too, so you might be able to find me under Bonnie Violet as well. But one of the good things about me leaving, I guess, is that we might get better sound.
Right. That's true, which is sad, but it's true. We'll connect better when you leave. So, and Octavio, so you mentioned the show website, but how can people find you if they want to just hear more of your story or see you if you're out and performing? Where can people find you?
You can find me on the Google, baby. Put Octavio Campos, and it'll find me. But I have been in a reinvention mode. I've kind of switched my life up completely during COVID. I'm not as public as I am public, but I'm more street public. I'm on the streets. I'm a hooker. No, I'm not a hooker. I'm just on the streets, meaning I'm doing the street work. I'm very present in the streets. I am very involved in the recovery community here in Chicago, so you can find me in a lot of different settings that way. But right now, I mean, the easiest way is via Facebook, and please don't be offended if I don't friend you, because I have I don't know, it's not really my thing, but that's an easy way for me to kind of update people like I did today about this show. That's my platform right now. So via Facebook. And if you want to dig a little bit into my past, if you really Google my name, you can find a lot of my old performances. I have a cute channel on the Penguin piece, for example, is on Vimeo. So if you want to check out me strapping the bombs and being
I will be checking that out.
A Jewish penguin, you can look it up. But yeah,
that sounds great. Thank you, Octavio. And if people want to find me, my coaching site is bobkisercoaching.com. Also, I'm on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is @BobKaiserCoach. Or as Octavio says, you can Google me. You'll find my contact information there. I love chatting with people about any of the topics that we've discussed. Also, the Perfect Detours podcast is out, and it's recordings of all our past shows. Straight from the station, no commercials, which is nice. But anyway, it has been such a joy and pleasure to talk to both of you. I wish you the best in your future journeys. I cannot wait to come to Miami to have my car washed, and Bonnie, can't wait to get to San Francisco to connect with you and to everyone out there on Facebook.
Wash your soul.
I love that, soul washing. I love it.
Soul wash.
So. Everybody out there in Facebook land, I hope that you have an amazing week. I wish you the most exciting, perfect detours in your life. And we will chat with you next time. So bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.